Talking roller coasters now because Saudi Arabia is thinking of building one. Here's our top story. Dubai Parks and Resorts pledging to help build Saudi Arabia's first theme park through its regional tie-up with the American operator Six Flags. Joining us in the studio with his take on this plan is Chris Hewitt of TRI Consulting. Morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Saudi Arabia plans to build a theme park. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, explain.
Well, if you look at Saudi Arabia, their tourism model is very heavily geared towards domestic tourists, large population that travel extensively within the country, and there's a real lack of quality leisure destinations within the country, and this helps increase the tourism proposition for Saudi nationals within the country.
You've spent a lot of time in Saudi Arabia. You've done a lot of feasibility studies for hotels and other leisure-related projects there. Culturally, Saudi Arabia is different. There could be challenges. I mean, so many of them. One of them, segregation. How do you make that work at a theme park? I'm sure people have been having these conversations, Chris. How do you see that working?
Well, I think if you look at the theme park in general, the main offering will be a family-orientated proposition. And, with families, there are times where families will go there, they'll enjoy. But when it comes to singles, there probably will be elements of segregation applied. But I think that there will be some cultural element that needs to be taken into consideration. And I think that's where the work that Dubai Parks and Resorts and Six Flags will help is taking the knowledge that they've learnt and developed from the development of the Dubai theme parks and trying to see a bit of cross knowledge go into Saudi Arabia and apply some of the gaps in the knowledge base.
As I see it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but this is quite extraordinary, isn't it? Because Dubai Parks and Resorts has an exclusivity deal with Six Flags for the GCC, and they're effectively stepping out of that. They're making Saudi Arabia the exception. It's pretty much a gift, right?
Well, I think it's about trying to create a good relationship with the GCC. The GCC has got a great relationship amongst the different nations, and there is a focus on trying to have that knowledge transfer within the countries itself. There is already an economic agreement and economic transfer, but there needs to be continual knowledge transfer. So if Dubai has been able to develop that knowledge base, bring in technical expertise from overseas, and use that for the development of the theme parks that are already in Dubai, as well as what we've seen in Abu Dhabi as well, then take that and then also apply that to what we've seen in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a pretty generous move. We see a lot of GCC exclusivity agreements here. It's not very often that someone quite happily gives up a big and lucrative, if you look at the sheer population in Saudi, piece of the pie, which is what's been done here. And as I understand, announced first by a tweet, actually, by Dubai ruler Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. That's where the story has originally come from. Let's look at this in a bit more detail. How do you think the tie-up's going to work? How do you think it's actually going to come together?
I don't want to speculate on what the type could be, but obviously what we're going to be looking at is by having the theme park in Saudi Arabia, and also there is talks of having it in Dubai, there is going to be that collective marketing, there is going to be that collective knowledge base, but also there'll be a element of cross-charging of expenses. Will be a bit more efficient when it comes to using some of the expertise, some of the products, and it'll be a little bit more efficient, I think, when you've got two components going into one area.
What does it potentially give the Saudi economy? Because I understand that this is being done in support of the Saudi diversification plan, the Saudi 2030 plan. I mean, obviously it will, like you say, add some knowledge, it will create jobs, it will add a new string to the tourism bow. What else does it do?
Well, I think it just helps when it comes to, creating that strength of the economy, because as you mentioned, there is that drive of diversification in Saudi Arabia, and tourism has become a key component of that. They've identified tourism as being a key focus, and this helps when it comes to that. The tourism and hospitality market in Saudi Arabia is, as I mentioned, driven by domestic tourists, but there is no real other form of tourism besides that and corporate travellers going into the country. So what this could do is hopefully maybe attract other GCC nationals from outside of Saudi Arabia to travel to Saudi Arabia, increasing the inbound tourism for the country. and also, as I said, increasing the appeal of the domestic market and try and reduce also some of that outflow, what we see going to Dubai and Abu Dhabi.
Could you see Saudi Arabia supporting more theme parks? I mean, how big there is the potential market, not so much in visitors, but in terms of a theme park holding?
I think there is potential, but it would need to be looked on a case-by-case basis. You need to have an organic approach to this type of development. It is untested waters, effectively. There are small little leisure and small little entertainment areas throughout Saudi Arabia, but it's not on the same scale as what we're looking with the likes of Six Flags. So it's a case, I think, of developing it, seeing how it's going, see what iterations need to be made, what changes need to be made, and then if there is a case for further development, then proceed on that basis and just see how it grows organically.
What about more locally developed brands? I mean, I see this morning we've now got a little figure, a little mascot for the Burj Khalifa. I think he's called Mr. Burj, sort of a blue tower-shaped plush fellow. He can join Madesh as the recognisable Dubai mascots. I mean, do you think we could see some very Saudi-themed attractions?
I think there is. As I said, there is some already existing facilities there, but they need to be updated. There needs to be a greater renewal investment into that. But those mascots help create an identity, and I think that's something that will be quite successful if they're able to implement that.
Yes, for me, Madesh means summer's coming.
That man has done more for this city. He does not get enough credit, Madesh, for what he's done for Dubai. And of course, Madesh is the Dubai Summer Surprises mascot. The summer is upon us now. Eid is just a few moments away. Chris, what have we learned so far about how Dubai's hotel industry is holding up this summer after what has been a pretty challenging year or so?
Well, it continues to be a bit challenging within Dubai. Fortunately, the demand levels are still there. We're still seeing strong occupancy rates across the market, which has propped up hotel performance.
What numbers are your hot stats telling you?
We're looking at year-to-date occupancy levels are on about 78%, which is encouraging across the 4 and 5 star market. That is about even with last year, but what we're seeing is that average room rates are continuing to soften. And we expect that to continue throughout the rest of the year.
And what about the prospects for the summer season is one thing. The most important season is September through December here in the UAE. That is peak holiday season. What visibility do you or the industry have about advanced bookings, about how that's shaping up?
I think the demand and the number of people coming into Dubai is still strong, and that's a positive that everyone needs to take away, that there are still people coming through. The airport's still attracting a high number of passengers, and Dubai seeing an increased number of tourists. It's just that the revenue generation of the hotel market is lower than last year. The rates are softening, and that's due to a number of elements like the changes in currency, and also with the increase in supply within the mid-market segment.
Chris Hewitt of TRI Consulting, always nice getting your thoughts. Appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.